YouTube. Welcome to Lori's Thrifty Kitchen Pantry. I am wishing all of my new subscribers a very special welcome. If you like my channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you know when I have new videos out. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I'm happy to have you here. So just make sure that you all are still actually subscribed to the channel. I noticed I've been unsubscribed by some of my favorite channels again, so just make sure that you hit that subscription button and the little notification bell. So I've decided to do kind of like first of all, a welcome video to the new subs, and I thought I would like to kind of clue everyone in as to where I'm at and how I got here. So yeah, my breakfast tray, I ate some of my cornflakes, but they changed the breakfast menu. I was supposed to have had 2 strips of bacon and a piece of toast and some cornflakes. They had toast, canned hash, some kind of, I think it was a muffin, I don't even know what it was, and something else, but not what I was supposed to have had. They did put milk on my tray this morning, I think because the cornflakes were on there. Hopefully you saw this short for lunch. That was a disaster. The only thing that was correct on it was the chicken and the potatoes. Even the dessert that they put on my tray, they freaking put upside down. So there was like apple pie juice all over my tray. I just couldn't believe it. The smell of the broccoli was making me ill. I've been sick pretty much all weekend. So luckily I had a Kroger delivery this morning, so I had gotten some Pringles and a few other snack things and some chicken noodle soup. And they had some Chef Boyardee things, the little microwave things. They had those on sale, so I actually can eat those, so I did have one of those for my lunch instead of some potato chips. But I'm supposed to have physical therapy at some point today. I don't know when. Nobody knows when physical therapy shows up on Sundays. They just come in. I was told that I had to get myself cleaned up, dressed, and down to the therapy room as part of my going home plan. I've went down there 3 times already. I told them if they show up, come and get me. Otherwise, I'm not making another trip down there, and my insurance is not paying for a missed therapy day. I will make sure of that. I am so fed up right now, so I'm hoping that talking to you guys will help calm me down a little bit. So first of all, how I got here. My leg actually started hurting in January. It was my right leg. Actually even really before that. I think probably around the end of November, 1st of December, it started hurting. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I went to bed. Well, first, January 3rd, I went into work. I had a funeral service to cover. I barely made it into the building. I was just kind of dragging my leg behind me. Luckily, I didn't have to go up the flight of stairs to the office, and I mostly sit down for what I do, so I was able to actually do my job. I went home. I wasn't feeling good, so I laid down. I woke up. I think it was like around 1 or 2 in the morning, and My right leg was completely paralyzed. I could not move it at all. Had no clue what was going on with it. So, luckily I had my phone next to my bed. I kind of scrolled through it. I knew I had some of my neighbors' numbers in my phone memory. I found one of them and called. They came over. Luckily, his son was here visiting. His son works as an ambulance technician. He took one look at me and told his dad to call 911, not to even attempt to move me. So they called an ambulance. I was not making sense of anything. I guess I was telling them all kinds of things that I didn't remember. I told him my sister lived in a town that she's never ever lived in. She lives less than 20 minutes from me in the same town I live in. So I was like really disoriented and definitely not myself. So they called an ambulance. I went to a hospital in Davenport, Florida, not too far from Orlando. I went there because they have private rooms and I didn't want to have roommates if I was admitted, so I went there. Well, and the hospital in my town was on diversion, which meant they were only taking the most serious patients that was life and death, whether they went there or somewhere else. So I ended up going up to the other hospital. They did a bunch of tests. They saw that my calcium was low. It was 5.8. It's supposed to be at least 8. When it gets below 6, I start having seizures because I'm hypocalcemic. So they admitted me and started running calcium. They ran a few bags of calcium, not that much. I am hypocalcemic. This has happened my entire life, so I figured with my leg, evidently, when I went to bed, I probably had a seizure and pinched a nerve in my leg, which is what I thought at that point. So they ran 2 or 3 bags of calcium. I still couldn't move my leg. They decided I needed rehab, so they sent me to a rehab from hell. As bad as what this place has been, that place was 3 times worse. So I kept getting sicker and sicker. I was still having seizures. I begged the doctor to call my sister. I begged him to call my endocrinologist. At that time, I was working with the pediatric endocrinologist in Nashville at Vanderbilt Research Center. I begged him to call my primary care doctor. He did nothing. They just left me lie there for a week and a half. I couldn't eat the food there either. I barely ate 2 plates of food the week and a half I was there. The last day I was there, it got so bad. The nurses and the CNAs laughed at me. They were actually purposely putting wrong food on my plate so that I would send it back to the kitchen. So it was really bad. I was actually crying for my mom, who passed away 4 years ago. That's how bad it was. I knew I was dying. I talked to a couple of my co-workers. I still have the text messages on my phone. I told them I wanted my mom, and I didn't care how I got to her. I just wanted my mom. And I told that again to my friends. So yeah, that's my computer shutting down for a few minutes. But yeah, so it was bad. I called my insurance to see what would happen if I called 911 and went to the hospital. She heard the commotion outside my room and asked me what was going on, and I told her that was the nurse and the CNAs all laughing at me because I needed my pain medicine. So my insurance representative told me if I did not feel safe there to call 911. So I called 911. They met them at the door. They told them I was a non-emergency, that I was leaving AMA, which is against medical advice, and that I was refusing to let them treat me, which was all totally a lie. So all the way to the hospital, the ambulance technician told me that I was not worth them wasting their equipment on, so that they were not even going to check my blood pressure or worry about putting an IV in. And I told them that my calcium was low. Please put an IV in so that they could start running calcium when I got to the hospital. They refused. So, yeah, they told me I was not worth wasting their equipment on. So I got to the hospital. When they triaged me, I told them what was going on, that my calcium was low. Please check my calcium, which they did. They ran blood work right away. It did take a while for the blood work to come back because they were extremely packed. There were people everywhere. People were leaving because they were so packed. But my lab work finally came back, and they took me at a run to the nearest empty room and started running calcium, because at that point my calcium level had dropped to 5.3 or 4, but it was at a very critical level. I was basically dying. So they told me that making that call probably saved my life. So it took them 10 days to get my calcium back up. So this is like second week in February when I got home. Still could not move my leg. I started working with physical therapy. I was actually starting to do pretty well. I was getting my leg up the steps, and I was getting around somewhat, doing some cooking videos here and there. So I was doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden it got so bad that I couldn't even stand up out of my lift chair. So I called 911 again, went to a hospital in Point Siena, which is almost like a suburb of Orlando. They gave me pain medicine and sent me home. I begged them to do an x-ray. I begged them to do an MRI. I begged them to do a CAT scan. He said no, I was addicted to pain medicine. He would give me some and send me home. So that's what he did. By the time I got home, the pain medicine had already worn off, and I was in worse shape than I was when I went to the hospital. So 2 days after that, I ended up having to call 911 again because I couldn't move. I couldn't get up. I couldn't do anything. So I went back to my local hospital. I talked to the ambulance technician all the way there, because he said all they were going to do was give me pain medicine and send me home. And I just started crying because I knew there was something wrong. My leg had never felt like this before, so I knew there was something majorly wrong. So he listened to everything that had led up to that point, and he agreed that there was something terribly wrong. Sorry, that is my finger in the way. So we got to the hospital, and he actually stuck around. He kept checking on me. And the ER doctor came in and he said, there's nothing wrong with you. You're addicted to pain medicine. I'm giving you some medicine and I'm sending you home. So I had a nervous breakdown at that point. I started really sobbing. I begged him to please not send me home like that, because at that point I couldn't even get up to go into the bathroom or anything. So he felt bad enough. He said, let me see what I can do. So at that point, I think the ambulance technician started talking to him and was telling him my story. So he called the hospital doctor down. They both talked to the hospital doctor. The hospital doctor came in and said, the ER doctor can't admit you, but I can admit you. And he started talking to me. He asked me what had been done up to that point. So I told him, and he's in the midst of that conversation, he said, has anyone ever scanned your lower back and hip area? Because he said there's some nerves in that area that can often run down your leg and make you paralyzed to where you can't move. And I said, of course no one's bothered to do that. So he said, well, we'll start there. So he did a CAT scan on my lower back and hip area, and sure enough, a bone from my spine had broken and fallen on the nerve in your lower back that runs down your right leg, and that's what was making me paralyzed. So he admitted me right away. And the next morning, one of the other hospital doctors who I've known for a long time, I worked at this hospital for 9 years, she's very, very good. She came in and she said, she told me about the bone being on the nerve and that I was going to have surgery. And she said, but because of the spina bifida, it's going to be really risky. And I said, what spina bifida? And she stopped for a minute. She's like, didn't anyone ever tell you that you had this? I said, no. My entire life, I have had all kinds of weird issues that nobody quite knew what to do with. When I was born, my parents were told I had like a fatty, non-cancerous tumor on my lower back that they had to take off. And that was the misdiagnosis of the spina bifida. And according to what I've read, I should not have been able to walk after they took that off. Anyway, I've had issues walking. I've had issues with IBS, with my bowels, with my bladder. Sorry if I'm getting TMI, but I want you to all know where I'm coming from. And I've had the hypocalcemia. No one could explain where that was coming from. I've had horrid bladder infections where no one could tell where they were coming from. They did exploratory surgery. My parents spent every dime they had running me to every clinic they could think of, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and nobody ever told them I had spina bifida. I guess they all thought that we knew. So anyway, it took me a month to get a bed at Tampa General, which is 50 miles away from my home, one way. No other hospital in the area would touch me. They said it was too risky. There was too much of a chance that I would be paralyzed if they tried to fix my leg, and there was also some other breaks in my spine, and there was some pretty good-sized gaps in my vertebrae that was starting to collapse that needed to be filled in with the cement. And all the other hospitals said no. So it took about a month for me to get a bed at Tampa General. So by this time, the spina bifida showed up on a CAT scan and an MRI at my hospital, and on a CAT scan and an MRI at Tampa General. So I know the spina bifida exists because it showed up on 4 different tests from 2 different hospitals. So I know that I have it. Anyway, I finally got into Tampa General. They did all of their tests and everything. They did the surgery. They did tell me that it was very risky, and if they couldn't stabilize the spine, that they would have to go back in and put a cage around it to stabilize it. So I was in pretty bad shape. I didn't realize how bad of shape I was actually in at this point. So they did the surgery. It actually went well. They stood me up for the first time afterwards. The hardware hold, they said that was the scariest part of the whole thing, was standing me up for that first time, because they said if the hardware was going to break, it would break when I stood up. So that went well. We were starting to look for a rehab to work on building strength back into the leg that was paralyzed. And then I developed a really bad infection around the surgical area. So they went back in with surgery a second time. They went back in, they cleaned the surgical wounds out, sent the samples in to see what it was, if it was contagious. So yeah, we had no clue what kind of infection it was. So the report came back, and I'm on 3 different antibiotics run through an IV, and I have to do that for 6 weeks. They will check to see if the infection is cleared up. If it hasn't, then they'll go another 6 weeks. So at this point, I have been in the hospital in my hometown a month and the hospital in Tampa a month. So they wanted me out of there. So they sent me here to this rehab to work on building up strength on my legs so I could go home. And y'all know the story from there. It has been so bad. It is starting to remind me of the rehab that almost killed me back in January. So I'm just really, I'm at the place where I feel like if I don't get out of here this week, that this place is going to kill me. The doctor's messing with all of my medications. She won't give me the medications that I need for the IBS flare-ups. They gave me one little Imodium pill yesterday. I'm still feeling sick, and I just can't deal with this anymore. So I know you all have been really great and wanting to know a little bit about where I'm coming from and what I'm dealing with. So I do have to be very careful with what I eat, because of, not only because of the IBS, but back in 2000 I also had weight loss surgery, because at that point in 2000 I had weighed, my heaviest was over 500 pounds. So I had weight loss surgery. I lost 250 pounds. I gained a little bit of it back, but it was just stress eating, taking care of my mom and working and going to school and just doing a lot of stuff. So it was mostly stress eating. So after she passed, I started losing again when I got onto my own eating schedule and what I wanted to eat. And now I'm at my lowest weight ever. I even as a 6 and 7 year old, I was always the heaviest kid in the group. So this I am now at 239. I was just weighed this morning. So I know I have to get out of here. I feel like I'm dying in here. I need to get home. I need to get back to you guys. I miss our live shows. I miss talking to all of you. I miss the cooking videos. I really miss my food pantry that I go to. I got to know the people there really well, and I just really miss them. I miss my life. I want my life back. I know I'm probably not going to be able to work again when I get home. I have to get to the Social Security office and get on disability, because I know if I move the wrong way or do the wrong thing, I can mess up the hardware that's holding my spine together, and I don't want to do that. So I know for safety's sake, I'm gonna have to go back on disability. I was on disability for a long time, and then I got off of it. I was working, I was supporting myself, I was actually doing pretty good until, I don't know how the bone in my spine felt. Well, yeah, I do. I take that back. I do. It was back in January when I know I had a seizure when I was sleeping. So that's what broke the bone in my spine. But anyway, this video's getting pretty long. The channel has grown so quick. I love each and every one of you. I will come up with new channel guidelines. I will not tolerate mean comments. I've already had to remove comments from someone saying that I've chosen to not eat the wrong meals that they're bringing me, that it's my fault that I'm not eating, so I've removed those comments. If that person responds to you and says comments like that, please let me know, and I will remove him from the, or whoever it is, I will remove from the channel, because I will not put up with anyone harassing me or any of you. I love how this channel has turned into a family channel. So many of us has come together because we were lonely, we were looking for friends, and we've turned into a family. So I am pretty lenient with the comments, but I will not tolerate any mean comments, and I will not tolerate someone harassing you all either. So keep it nice. Let's all play in the sandbox nice together. I know we can do it. So I just want to thank each and every one of you. Your prayers and your donations mean everything right now. I actually have no income coming in at the moment. I've tried for months to get through to Social Security. I've been on hold sometimes for 8 hours at a time, and then the office is closed and I have to call back the next day, and I just have to get home and go to the office and get the paperwork filled out to get back on disability again. So love to each and every one of you. You mean so much to me. I just am so grateful for all of you. I don't know what I would do without you. So I'm gonna sign off of this by saying, be safe, be happy, be blessed, and I will see you all on the next video. Bye.